In this video, we're going to learn how to add markers to our map. Also, we will learn how to add info windows containing some information that we can add about places. And we will see how to create some animations for our markers. So let's open our file FTP and create a new file and call it 2.markers and info windows. .php. So let's open this file in brackets using Control O. Okay, and I'm just going to copy the content from the previous file. Okay, and change the title to markers and info windows. And let's save that. And let's open this page. Okay, let's go to our website and then let's change this file to 2.markers and info windows.php. Okay, so at the moment we can see our map there. Now let's add some markers to our map. So let's create the first marker, which is this one. So let's go at the end of our JavaScript code. Add a comment there, create marker 1. So to create a marker, we need to create an object. So let's call it marker 1. And to create this object, we need to use a constructor. So we're going to use the keyword new followed by the constructor's name. So it's google.maps.marker. Okay. And this constructor is going to take one parameter, which refers to the options of our marker. So let's call these options marker1 options. So that's going to be a variable which we will define before creating the marker. Okay. So variable marker1 options. So this is going to be an object and it's going to include a few parameters or options, a few properties. So the first property is going to be the position of the marker. And we're going to set the position the same way we have set the center of our map earlier. Okay. Using the my latitude longitude variable. And after that, we need to specify which map we are going to place our marker on. So the property is called map. And in our case, we're going to use the map objects that we defined earlier. Okay, so I'm going to write map. Just make sure that you differentiate between these two. The first one is the name of the property of the marker. The second one is the object map that we defined earlier. We could have named that anything. Okay, my map or whatever. And in that case, I would have pasted my map there. Okay. So I'm going to go back to this and save. Now let's check. So we've got our marker there. Okay. Now let's add a few properties. Let's give our marker a title so that when we hover on it, we see a tooltip. So that's going to be a string. For example, this is London. Okay, now if I save and refresh the page, if I hover on the marker, then we can see a tooltip there. This is London. Okay, we can also make the marker draggable by setting the draggable property to true. Okay, now if we refresh, we can now drag our marker. Okay. Also, we can add animation to our marker. So the property is animation. Okay, and let's say that when we load the page, we want our marker to drop. Okay, just like that. Okay, so the value of the animation is going to be google.maps.animation capital A .drop capital letters. Okay, so this is for the animation. So let's save this and refresh our page, and we can see the drop animation. Okay, now let's create the second marker, which corresponds to that one. Okay, and that's centered in Bedford. That's where I live. So let's place a comment there, marker 2. So we're going to create a variable marker 2, and we're going to use the same syntax we used earlier. So we're going to use the constructor google.maps.marker, okay, with the keyword new, and we're going to place the options of the marker inside the parameters of the function. Okay, so just to save time, I'm going to copy paste that, and rather than marker 1 options is going to be marker 2 options. So let's define the options at the beginning. So this time let's define the position. Okay, and for Bedford the latitude is 52.1337 and the longitude is minus 0.4577. Okay, and then the second property is going to be the title, and let's say this is Bedford. Okay, now I'm not gonna use the map property, but instead I'm gonna go after the creation of the marker using the constructor, and then I'm gonna use a method of the markers object. So we're gonna use the marker objects, and we're gonna use a method called setMap with capital M. So this method is going to take as a parameter the map object where we want to place our marker. Okay, in our case it's map. So let's save this and refresh the page. Now we can see our marker there. Okay, now if we want to add some animation to the marker outside the options, we can do that. So let's do it before setting the map. So there is a method for that, it's setAnimation. Okay, and we're gonna place the animation value inside the parameters. So rather than drop, let's go this time for bounce. So let's save and refresh. Now you can see that our marker is bouncing. Okay. Now let's add an info window. Okay, and make sure that once we click on marker 1, we can see the info window. So to create an info window, we are going to create an object. So let's do that right after the creation of marker 1. So let's call this object info window. So you're going to need a constructor to create this object. So you're going to use the keyword new followed by the constructor's name, which is google.maps.info window. So this constructor is going to take as a parameter the options of the info window. Okay, so we can either create a variable for the options of the info window and place it there. Otherwise, we can just go ahead and do this directly there. So that's going to be an object, okay, and we're going to place a few properties inside. So we're going to start with the content of the info window, which we're going to set to a variable content string, which I'm going to define there, okay. And inside this variable, we're going to place some HTML code inside the quotes. So let's define a div, and let's write some text inside the div. For example, this is an info window. Okay. Now the next parameter, or the next property, I'm going to go for, let's define a maximum width for our info window. So the property is max width, and let's set that to 100 pixels. Okay. Let's add a comment there. Create info window. Okay. Now we want to be able to click on the marker and show the info window. So what we're going to add a listener, okay, to the marker so that it shows the info window. So to do that, we're going to use the marker object, which is marker 1, and then we're going to use a method called add listener. So inside this method, we're going to have a couple of parameters. So the first parameter is the event, which is click, okay, and the second parameter is the function to execute when the event takes place. So we're going to define a function, okay, so to show the info window, we're going to use the info window object, okay, and then a method open, and we're going to place two parameters there. So the first parameter is the map object, which is map. The second parameter is the marker, okay, which is marker 1. If we set it to marker 2, then once we click on marker 1, the info window will show in marker 2. Okay, so now let's save this and make sure it's working. That's a semicolon, not a colon. Okay, so if I refresh the page and click on marker 1, then we can see our info window. Okay. In the next video, we are going to learn how to show, hide, or completely delete markers.